who holds the house together.
The mothers, the
Through
grandmother.
Exactly. This brings us to the emotional anchors of the family, the matriarchs. And devastatingly, the physical locations where the family is forced to gather to mourn them.
The matriarchal line introduces a profound complication to how this family interacts with the idea of duty and country.
Let's talk about Douglas's mother, Loretta Imogene Waugh. She lived from 1962 to 2012, and the records contain a detail about her that completely short circuits any preconceived notions someone might have about this family.
Yeah, this is a vital detail,
Loretta was a United States Navy veteran.
which is just, it reframes everything.
It really does. When she was buried, the military presented the family with a folded American flag, the ultimate symbol of honorable service. She raised her hand, swore an oath to the Constitution, and served her country in the armed forces.
Now, you might be thinking, how does a woman who served in the Navy end up the matriarch of a family heavily entangled in the federal prison system?
Right, it seems so contradictory.
But historically, Native Americans serve in the United States military at a higher per capita rate than almost any other demographic.
Which is a wild paradox, considering the history.
It is. It stems from a deeply ingrained cultural tradition of the warrior, of protecting the land and the people, even when the government you are serving is the same entity that historically displaced your ancestors and currently polices your reservation.
Wow.
It is a staggering level of patriotism that is rarely reciprocated by the state.
And it certainly wasn't reciprocated in Loretta's case.
No,
The state did not protect her. In February 2012, Loretta was murdered.
just horrific.
She was stabbed to death in Mission, South Dakota. A man named Lawrence Anthony Whipple was indicted, pled guilty to second-degree murder, and received a 16-year federal sentence.
16 years.
And the timeline here is just a brutal psychological hit. Douglas had only been out of federal prison for 11 months when his mother was killed.
Look at the mechanics of that transition.
Yeah.
You spend years in federal custody where every single second of your day is dictated by absolute rigid control.
Yeah.
You finally get out, you're trying to recalibrate to freedom, trying to rebuild a relationship with your mother, and 11 months later, the ultimate chaos happens. She's violently taken from you.
Just ripped away.
The whiplash from absolute control to absolute tragic chaos is enough to shatter anyone's psyche.
And it anchors the family to a very specific, deeply tragic piece of geography. They bury her in St. Mary's Garden, a cemetery in Wood, South Dakota.
Right.
But St. Mary's isn't just Loretta's resting place. It is a repository for the family's compounding grief. Loretta is there. Her mother, Grandma Lou, is there.
Yeah.
Douglas's aunt, Luella, who passed recently, is there. His cousin Terrence, known as TBOP, who died in 2016, and in January 2026, his nephew, Darren Storm Dog Farmer Jr., died by suicide and was buried there.
St. Mary's Garden essentially functions as a physical ledger of their loss. And notice the compression of generations.
What do you mean?
You have the elders, like Grandma Lou, buried right alongside the youth, like Darren. The natural order of grief is completely upended. You expect to bury your grandparents. You don't expect to bury your nephew.
I cannot stop thinking about the folded American flag on Loretta's casket. I keep turning it over in my head.
It's a powerful image.
How do you reconcile that? Here is a woman who offered her life in service to the United States, and yet she was murdered in her own community. And her descendants, the people she was supposed to be building a future for, are systematically policed, raided, and incarcerated by the very same federal government she swore to defend.
Yeah.
It is a blinding paradox.
It's blinding because it exposes the friction between the ideal of the American system and the reality of how it functions on a reservation. Loretta wore the uniform, but her children and nephews were the inmate numbers.
Wow.
She defended the system, and the system broke through her son's ceiling. The cognitive dissonance required for the family to process that is immense.
And sadly, that dissonance doesn't stop at the edges of the family tree. The trauma bleeds heavily into Douglas's peer group, the men he grew up with, the men he considers his brothers.
The documents chronicling his friendships are arguably the darkest part of this archive because they track the literal attrition rate of an entire generation of men in this community.
Let's go back to the dropped pin in the crate from the intro.
Right, the 150 yards.
Just 150 yards from the house on Spotted Tail Lane, that pin marks where Matthew Matt Hokas was found. The records show that in late 2021, Matt disappeared right before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
He was pulled over for a traffic stop in Rosebud, and he reportedly fled from his vehicle while being chased by an officer. He vanished for 9 days.
9 days. Think about the agony of that. The community-forming search